Pregnancy is not for the faint of heart. And while there are some women who absolutely love being pregnant, there are plenty of other women out there who really struggle in their pregnancies. So if you are finding yourself in a difficult pregnancy, or maybe you're hoping to get pregnant soon and have a little bit of concerns about what that experience might be like, this episode is for you. We're going to talk all about how do you handle it when you have a difficult pregnancy. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Welcome to the Confessions of a New Mom podcast. I'm Jill. I have a 7-month-old son. I had him at 38 years old, which means I was labeled as a geriatric pregnancy. And trust me, that is not a fun label to get. If you are here, you might be a new mom yourself. You might be expecting, or maybe you're a mom who's been around the block for a little while. Wherever you are in your stage of being a mom, I hope that you come away feeling like someone out there understands you. And most of all, I hope you come away feeling encouraged. Today, we're going to be jumping into how do you handle a difficult pregnancy. I myself had a difficult pregnancy, and I'm going to share a little bit about that today. But I want to start off first by saying there is such a wide range of what it could mean when you say difficult pregnancy. There are some women who I've known who have had surgery while pregnant. I've known other women on bed rest while having to stay in the hospital. And then other women who just really had challenges physically, whether it was nausea or pains or different things like that. So I just want to take a moment to appreciate that that is not a one size fits all, right? If you have a difficult pregnancy, what's difficult for you might look different for someone else. But hopefully, no matter where you are on that range of difficult pregnancy, hopefully you come away today feeling like you have a little bit of extra tools in your toolkit for how to handle that. And most of all, hopefully come away feeling like you're not alone. There are other women out there who understand and have experienced it as well. So when I say I had a difficult pregnancy, I had developed HG, or otherwise known as hyperemesis gravidarum, within the first trimester of my pregnancy. Now, if you don't know what that is what I refer to as an extreme version of morning sickness. Essentially, you are nauseous all day long. It is relentless. And in my particular case, it got so bad that I actually couldn't get out of bed for about a month. And no matter what I did, I had so much nausea that I instantly felt like I needed to throw up. Everything from even just turning over in bed made me feel like I was going to be sick. I lost 22 pounds within 2 months. I was in and out of the emergency room because I kept getting dehydrated, eventually needing to be admitted to the hospital where they got my levels back where they needed to be, hydrated me, and then eventually put me on a regime of medication just to help me get over the hump of that first trimester in dealing with HG. That was tough enough as it is. About 3%, maybe a little bit more, of women will experience HG in their pregnancy. But for me, once that finally started subsiding, I then developed prenatal depression and anxiety in my second trimester. And that's about 10% of women who will get that. So what the odds are of me getting both HG and prenatal depression? Probably very low, but it happened. And just from there, I just had such a really challenging pregnancy. It was hard, both physically, mentally, emotionally, across the board. When you have a challenging pregnancy, it catches you off guard. I think we tend to go into it having this idea in our head of what being pregnant is going to be like. It's supposed to be an exciting time. It's supposed to be, like I don't know, you're supposed to like love being pregnant, or at least that's the idea that sometimes you get in your head, especially when you see other women who have experienced it and seem to enjoy it so much. And when you have a hard pregnancy, it really can catch you off guard, and it can be just a challenge to try to wade through the waters of that and maintain excitement when you are just not feeling anything close to excitement based on what you're going through. So I'm going to share with you some things that I found helpful during this time. I want to say, obviously, I am not a doctor. I am not offering you any medical advice. I'm only offering you my experience of what I went through and what helped me during this time, and just some general ideas that hopefully, no matter where you are in that scale of difficult pregnancy, you're going to find something that you can take away that's going to help you during this time. One of the first things that you need to keep in mind when you have a challenging pregnancy is you need to do what you need to do for you. So I will never forget one of my very early OB appointments. I loved the doctor that I had. She was like, Jill, you just need to do whatever you need to do. She was like, if you need to just eat soft pretzels, go ahead and eat soft pretzels. This is not the time for figuring out a health plan and making sure you get all these nutrients. She was like, this is a little bit of survival mode, and you're going to do what you need to do. And you know what? She was right. We can feel a little bit of pressure that we have to eat the right thing and make sure we're exercising, and all of that stuff is important. I'm not setting that to the side completely, but there comes a point when your body is growing a human being. And if you need to do something to take care of yourself, then you need to do it, right? If you are only able to hold down Pop Tarts, then eat the Pop Tarts, right? If you are not able to get off the couch because you are so fatigued and tired, then go ahead and take a nap because that's what your body needs. This is not really necessarily a time for intense self discipline. It's a time for really nurturing yourself, because taking care of yourself is going to be taking care of that little baby that's growing inside of your body. It also really helps to keep in mind, and this is hard to do when you're in it, but it's helpful to keep in mind the perspective that this really is temporary. What you're going through is not going to last forever. What you're experiencing now as a pregnant woman is not going to determine what life is like as a mom. I am forever grateful to one of my doctors. When I was in the hospital because of HG, I was just very concerned that this was going to be my entire pregnancy. I was about 14 weeks pregnant at this time. Like I said, lost 22 pounds. I was just like, I felt like a shell of myself. And I was trying to envision what another, second and third trimester of pregnancy was going to be like feeling this way. And I remember sharing that with him, and he turned to me and said, Jill, this is not a prison sentence. And that was such a relief to hear, right? Like, he didn't know what the rest of my pregnancy was going to bring, but he was giving me this hope that in this moment, that what I was experiencing now was not going to last forever. And that is really hard to hold on to and believe when you're in the midst of it, because when you are going through it, it just feels like it's never going to end. But it is going to end. You are going to make it through this. And at the end of it, you're going to have a beautiful baby that you're going to love and get to enjoy. Even if right now it doesn't seem that way, you're going to make it through. This isn't going to last forever. But that kind of brings me to my next point, where it's managing not only your feelings and emotions, but the emotions of the people around you. So, what I mean by that is, I had a lot of people in my life who were very excited that I was having a baby. Of course, they were. It's an exciting time in your life. But because of how I was feeling, I was not exactly as excited as they were, especially when I was struggling with prenatal depression and anxiety. I would have people say to me, oh my goodness, how wonderful. Aren't you so excited? You're pregnant. This is great. And on the outside, I'd be saying, yes, it's so exciting. And on the inside, I was thinking, it's really not that exciting. I was not really so joyful. And there's some guilt that comes with that when everyone around you is just thinking this is the best thing ever, and you're not feeling that way. You're not feeling like this is the greatest thing ever. If anything, sometimes it brings up questions of, did I do the right thing? It brings up questions of, I'm not excited now. Am I going to be excited when the baby comes? And all of that is very normal to experience. So if you are kind of wrestling with that as well, where you have people around you who are on cloud nine and you're not feeling that way, that is a very normal thing. And it's okay to let go of how they feel and not feel any pressure that you have to experience the same thing. You are going through something right now that is not easy, and it's okay to feel what you're feeling and not have any guilt or shame about it. Let's talk some practical tips to help yourself if you are in the midst of a difficult pregnancy. First, rest without guilt. Have you ever experienced when you get sick and you lay on the couch and you watch TV and it's kind of like guilt-free TV watching because you're like, I'm sick. This is what I'm going to do, right? In a way, like that's what pregnancy should be like. I'm not saying sit around and watch TV all day, but if you need to rest, rest without guilt and shame, right? If you need to put your feet up for a little while, you go ahead and put your feet up for a little while. You are growing a human being and it is not easy. So you should be able to rest without guilt, without shame, right? Next up, you're probably going to need to advocate for yourself. So, when I was experiencing prenatal depression, I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I went to my OB and I shared what I was experiencing. And I kind of figured that they would be the experts on this, that they would know what to do and how to handle that. I will say I loved my OB. However, in this particular case, I didn't really get the help that I needed. It was kind of brushed off like, oh, yeah, that happens. There are some resources if you need it. And no one really followed up or took the steps that needed to happen in order for me to actually get help. And I had never experienced this before, so I didn't really know what to do. And I was relying on my doctor to help me. So when that didn't really happen, I kind of was at a loss, especially when you're going through something difficult. It's something difficult in pregnancy, like you need someone else really to come alongside and help you, and in this case that just didn't happen for me. So I actually ended up going to my regular care doctor, and they were actually the ones who helped diagnose what was going on and then get me connected to a counselor who really helped me get through that phase of my pregnancy. But that required me going to another doctor and not stopping when I got a no. Now, I don't know what you're experiencing, and perhaps you have turned over every stone to try to get help. But if you are someone who maybe has only tried a little bit to get help or you've met some resistance, I just want to encourage you, don't stop. If there's something that you are going through in your pregnancy and you just can tell, like, this is just not right, I shouldn't be going through this, or there's got to be something out there to help me, there probably is. So take the time to advocate for yourself. Don't necessarily take no for an answer, right? Search online for different resources that might be helpful to you, different groups of women who maybe have experienced the same thing that could give you advice. And if you need to, you might have to go to another doctor just to get a second opinion on things, or maybe even a third. It is worth advocating for your health and the health of your baby during this time. Another way you can help yourself during this time is to release comparison. So, I don't know about you, but the second I got pregnant and clicked on one thing on social media that had to do with pregnancy, it was like all of the algorithms knew I was pregnant and started throwing into my feed content about pregnant women. And a lot, if not all, of the content that I was getting was women who were so happy to be pregnant and hugging their belly, and here's different outfits you can wear, and here's how I'm nesting and getting ready for baby. And I was sick as a dog. I was laying in bed, like feeling like I was dying. And here are these women who are like loving being pregnant. And isn't it the best thing ever? And it just made me feel terrible. I felt like, what's wrong with me? How come they get to have this amazing pregnancy? And here I am feeling like I'm dying. So it really just didn't serve me after a while of realizing it that I needed to just stop comparing myself to other women. I needed to stop looking at what other women were going through in their pregnancy. It wasn't serving me. I wasn't having the same experience that they were having. And maybe that wasn't okay that I wasn't, but that's the reality of where I was. And when you let go of comparing yourself to other women and just focus on yourself and where you are, it at least releases a little bit of the mental and emotional load. It's about really accepting where you are and dealing with it rather than being lost in the grief of what you don't have. And you know what? That's kind of what it is in a way. It is a little bit of grieving that you aren't having the pregnancy that you wanted to have. And that's okay to grieve it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to love your baby. It doesn't mean that motherhood is going to to be a terrible experience. It's just accepting the fact that this right now isn't going so great, and I'm going to deal with the reality of where I am. So if you are finding yourself comparing yourself to other pregnancies and other women's experiences, do yourself a favor, stop, put the phone down, accept where you are, and address that with yourself, and let go of the expectation of being like anyone else. The last big thing I'm going to talk about, I find was difficult for me, and maybe you are finding it difficult for yourself as well, but that's asking for help. I don't know why, but for some reason, I just kind of like put myself in a little bit of a shell, especially when I had HG. I took to the bed and I stayed there, and my husband would bring me food that I really never ate, but it was really just him and I struggling to get through it. And I had many people in my life who, after the fact, were like, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say anything? We would have helped you. And they were right. I should have said, I'm not okay. I need some help. And I don't even know necessarily what they could have done for me, but just taking the time to talk to someone, friend and family, about what I was really going through probably would have helped in some way. Now, I did have the help of my mom. She brought me to the hospital many times to deal with getting rehydrated. So it's not like I was completely alone and didn't share with anyone, but there's probably so much more help that I could have asked for. So if you are a mama who is struggling, maybe you even have other children and this is not your first pregnancy and you really need help from people, don't be ashamed to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Put it out there and see. You might be surprised how many people in your life really do want to come alongside you and help to make this process a little bit easier for you. There are plenty of other things that you can do to help yourself during a difficult pregnancy. This is really just scratching the surface of some things that I found helpful for myself. I just want to encourage you. You are strong. You are capable. Your body is doing what it has been designed and created to do. Even though it is really difficult and challenging, you are going to make it through this time in your pregnancy. And on the other side of it, you're going to come away with a son or daughter who really does bring you a lot of joy and brings you a lot of peace and happiness, knowing that you made it through and you get this really awesome thing at the end of it. So I would just encourage you, if you know a mama who's going through a difficult time in her pregnancy, go ahead and share this with her to hopefully be an encouragement and someone that she can relate to during this time.